Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel and another episode in our how-to series for Planet Coaster 2. Today we're diving into creating our cyberpunk themed shop. I've always wanted to try a cyberpunk design, and with the new amazing lighting options, I think it's the perfect time to try it out. In this episode we'll explore everything from choosing versatile pieces to crafting both the exterior and interior with a dark futuristic vibe. So stick around to learn how to bring that electric neon lit atmosphere to life for your shops. Let's get started. So first of all, let's talk about finding the right pieces for a cyberpunk aesthetic. You know, cyberpunk is gritty, industrial, and full of vibrant neon. Even though Planet Coaster 2 doesn't have a specific cyberpunk set, there are many versatile pieces that can work, also including the scaling we have now. All you gotta do is you gotta look for metallic items like industrial, vents or grills, and another props that add texture. A normal wall can be used as this if you just figure out a way to attach maybe decals, some gritty vibes to it. You can even make it look like an edgy, worn down look, and lights can double as glowing signs or tech panels. Part of the fun here is getting creative and thinking out of the box, and repurpose items that weren't intended for cyberpunk, but fits the vibe. We have Viking, we have mythology, we have resort, and we got the aquatic pack. And within all these themes, you can find tons of other themes if you just have the creativity and you're kind of like trying to think out of the box in which way you should go, in which direction. And if we'll be combining these elements to bring our shop design to life, so keep these versatile pieces in mind as we build. And as you can see here, it took me a little bit of time before I actually started this build because I wanted to see if I had the pieces that I needed to it. And most importantly, it is the neon lit lights here. And I actually found them, and they are in the resort theme. That's where I found them. And if I kind of like just twist them a little bit and put them into the wall and color them one color, as you can see here, it kind of gives me this nice lit panel here, and it kind of gives me like a diner, like an 70s 80s diner vibe when you do these stripes here. And I really loved how it immerses this build here when we get some more light on it, and everything just seems so nicely and it works perfectly together. But sometimes it takes a lot of time to find these versatile pieces, but we are kind of fortunate in Planet Coaster 2 because we have the scaling. So a lot of pieces with the scaling is already very versatile. And as you can see here, I'm using the brick walls and some plaster walls, and now I'm using the metal wall from the aquatic pack or theme. And it's all about mixing textures and figuring out a way to combine all these pieces together so it can become a more better and bigger built in what you have in mind. As you can see here, I'm slowly starting to build it. It's gonna be like a little like apartment building block here, and I'm kind of like measuring out the windows now, which is also gonna be very custom. Like pretty much this whole build is custom because we don't really have this theme in Planet Coaster 2 yet. But what I'd like to do and share is that even though we do not have these themes, we can still build them if we just have a little bit of creativity. And you can take pictures on Pinterest, find a lot of pictures, put them in a folder. Like if you want to build a specific build, maybe find 2 or 3 pictures for it, and then afterwards kind of like combine the best elements of each build. As you can see here, I added in the sushi shop, and I feel like sushi obviously works very well with cyberpunk, and I had some ideas that I wanted to build a neon lit sign on top of this here. So this is kind of like the first shop that we are adding onto the build. And then afterwards, as you can see, we have some windows, and inside there we're gonna add another shop as well, with also an ATM, or no, not an ATM, vending machine outside too. But yeah, what I really enjoy about building a new theme is that you have to kind of like think about a way to use pieces differently. And it's a big process in itself, honestly. And sometimes you try one time and you get the perfect, as you can see me here, I'm doing some solar panels on top of this roof here, because that's very cyberpunkish too. So I feel like if we can kind of like integrate some of that in here and make it look super dope, it will look like that this store here has its own little solar panel system and kind of like provides the power for the shop. And as I say in the start, I've always wanted to try out cyberpunk because it's always just been such a huge theme to do, especially after the game got released a few years back, and I always got super inspired by it. But the lighting and stuff in Planet Coaster was not really super perfect yet, so I felt like, why don't I try do it in Planet Coaster 2 now? And I can definitely tell that this is something I'm very proud of so far, and I'm very excited to maybe even explore more within the cyberpunk theme. So yeah, as you can see here, the solar panels are kind of done now, and that's what I mean about versatile pieces. You have to think about it in a different way. Like, if you want to build something, you have to think about what of these pieces can I use. I sometimes put up and lay down 10-15 pieces just because I want to see, okay, I'm using these pieces overall, and these are going to be the pieces that's going to build me this store, or it's going to build me this store here. And I didn't really have something to go with. As I say, I looked at a few pictures too, and I was like, okay, why don't I just layer it and build it like a little apartment block, like a little gritty apartment block that has a few shops in and out. And I really like that, and I think it looks super dope. And unfortunately, we do not have windows in the game yet, or glass panels. So what you saw me do here is that I'm using this water panel, which is not obviously, it's not the best because it's pretty heavy, but this is what we get so far. Hopefully in the future we will get glass panels. And I also kind of find it funny that it's kind of a repetitive pattern that Frontier is doing, because we did not have glass in Planet Coaster 1 either in the start. So yeah, it's quite funny that they're doing this again. But anyways, you can find ways to do it as I did here with the water panel, and just use it as glass behind the windows. I know I'm mentioning a lot of Planet Coaster stuff, but in Planet Coaster stuff we had a lot of things. We had also like this fire exit escape here that are kind of like, that was in the studio pack, but we unfortunately again do not have this in the main game for startup. So I had to do kind of like my own little fire exit here, and I kind of like how this turned out as well. As you can see, I'm using just a normal fencing to do all this. And again, fencing is not only for fencing, it can be used in so many different ways. Specifically in this kind of term here, where I'm doing this little stairway, and as you can see, just kind of like duplicated them and layered them on top of each other, so we don't have these sort of little holes, because we don't obviously want people to fall through. You can still focus a lot on realism when you build all these things here, specifically like having things that make sense. This is also something I have said in all my videos, in all my tutorials, and I'm saying it again. Like, it's you don't have to, like, you have to try a few things once in a while to see how things goes, and sometimes you're lucky, sometimes you're not, sometimes you have to go through it a few times, but eventually the end result is always nice. You saw there, I put a little shutters on the windows just to kind of like make it look even more abandoned and gritty and more cyberpunkish, and I really like that. So another little thing here I'm doing is that obviously we can't color these posters and billboards as we got here on the wall, but by adding a little bit of decal on it and kind of like integrating them nicely into the wall, you can kind of make it feel like that they've been there for a long time, as you can see here, and kind of like just cover it all up so it feels very dirty, you know, like it's been there forever and no one has really taken it off or cleaned it, and it just gives a nice vibe as well, even though it's like a more of a gritty, like dark Sturbian kind of vibe. It still goes very well. And so inside here I'm adding the pathing so I can add a little extra shop, and we are doing a little bit of stuff as well here. I'm not doing so much in the back, you don't see me do that because it's a lot of the same things as you've kind of seen me do. So the back side has mainly just a few decals, and we'll also have a few windows and stuff. I do kind of want to try add more to this build, or maybe even a blueprint that I can kind of attach to this. So if this is also something you guys just want in general, if you want like a little cyberpunk mini series of me building more of this stuff, because all these will be blueprints. This build is on the Frontier workshop right now as we speak here, and the code and everything you need to know is in the description below. But yeah, as you can see here, we are really starting to get a nice building out of here, and we have slowly started with the exterior here. As you can see, we got the sushi shop still, and we added inside another shop, and now it's a big combination of being a very interactive build. And that's also what's very important when you do shop building in Planet Coaster. It's all about having like a nice inviting tone to it. Obviously this build here is not so inviting because of the greediness and kind of like the derelict, and it's a little bit broken off and stuff, but you can kind of like still make it look like it's interesting, like people want to see what is happening here. And having just a plain building in front where you just put the wall and do a triangular roof, it works, but at the same time it's pretty much like just very basic. And if you just use maybe half an hour more adding trim pieces, maybe adding a little bit of decals, adding a little tree or a little bush, some growing vines on the side of the building, like all these things, they have a very big impact on your builds, and it just lightens up a lot. And as you can see here, I use the resort lights here again to make my custom font here, the Neon City Sushi Shop. I felt like that was kind of fitting. And then afterwards here, I'm using this little canopy piece from in Planet Coaster 2 here, and I actually thought it was kind of a fun piece, but eventually I add them behind the windows, and then we can kind of like get that super nice attachment to the windows as well, where we have a little bit of a red and green and blue background to the windows. And it just works very well, honestly, as you can see here. And also, obviously, it's not cyberpunk without these sort of air conditioning hanging on the wall. And since we do not have cables, we have this like copper kind of line, as you can see here, I used on the right there. And then just adding that everywhere. Obviously, we need some detailing on the building. So what I'm doing here now is obviously adding some gutter drain pipes, and then afterwards I'm also kind of like trying to connect all these air conditionings together with a little bit of cable and wiring, and then it's just slowly kind of like move over to that direction where we do not need to add more stuff to the wall. I do wish we could make the pipes, like these aquatic pipes, a little bit smaller in scale. I do hope eventually we will get more pipes into the game, because it will really adds a lot. Because some of the pieces I'm like, this is a great piece, but we can only scale it down to 50%, where some actually goes all the way down to 20%. And I really hope that eventually in the future that will be fixed. So many other pieces will be in that 20% scale. As you can see, I kind of wanted added a little bit of lights here now, because I was like, okay, so now we kind of get to add the neon, kind of like the cyberpunk vibe. And it's very important to kind of like figuring out a few lights you want to use before you kind of use it, to kind of like get that superb lighting. And in Planet Coaster 2, we have such a good lighting now that I feel like every lights pretty much works wonders here, and I'm just a big fan of it. So we've added a little sign here too. As I say, it's all about having that inviting atmosphere and kind of like having a lot of things that you can eventually just have on the building. Like, I'm a sucker for clutter, and I have not really figured out all the clutter pieces yet, though I do really like, we have like the Viking pieces are amazing, and we also got a lot of aquatic pieces that would work very well that I'm also adding in later on. But yeah, as you can see here, we are slowly finishing off with the exterior of the build, just closing off these windows here to make it look like they're kind of like faded away or like kind of like closed in. No one really likes what's happening there. And afterwards, again, over to the wall here and adding a little random piece to the wall. But it's all about figuring out what works well together. And if you are just in doubt in just 1 second, just remove whatever you've done and try do something else. It's a constant brainstorm when you build. Like, unless you really are like fully integrated into, you want to build this build you're looking at and you want to recreate it and you don't want to do anything else, then obviously you have a goal. But when you kind of like just free, like, how do you say, like free roaming it in a way, it's all about just figuring out the pieces and like the composition and what else can you kind of like add into this whole building. And as you can see here, I'm slowly now getting to the end here of the exterior, and I felt like adding these corrugated iron roof as a sunshade on the top really add to the build itself. I was not having them first, but they're such a cool piece with those hanging little bottles on the top there, and I think they are amazing. Of course, we need a little bit of foliage, because foliage always does the job. Even though if it's just a little tree, it just adds a little bit to it. And as you can see here, we are pretty much adding, as I said, the air conditioning kind of like to go together here. And again, it's literally, and I can say it a million times, it is literally just how you think about using the pieces. I would say in general, like 80% of these pieces in the game are versatile. Like, just because it says Viking, you do not need to use it for Viking, you know. And that's how you become a better builder, is look at a piece and think, how many pieces is this piece? How many pieces can I build with this piece? And so on. And you just gotta remember that is a very strong thought to have throughout a whole build. And it really, really helps with a lot of things. Another thing I can tell is that it's always good to download a blueprint from the workshop. If you haven't really if you feel like that this speed build wasn't enough, you can download this build and you can go in and you can check out the pieces that I used. And that is also a tip I have given for many years, is that subscribing to other things or joining other communities really, really helps your building experience and also just the whole gaming experience in general. Okay, so we are inside the interior here, and I didn't want it to do too much. Like, I didn't want it to make it completely packed, so I just put in a few benches. I made like a little fan here, as you can see, and then just adding in a little bit of a roof, so we get a little like dark vibe in here, because that's what we can do now in this game, right? It's amazing. And then pretty much I just kind of like just go with the flow and add a little bit of stuff here and there inside. And it's all about, again, how you see your build and how you brainstorm. Like, for me specifically, I wanted to make the exterior more than I wanted to focus on the interior, because the exterior is what people see mostly and is what really catch the eye. And I think it's very important to think out of the box. But yeah, I hope that this little video got you a little bit of a better sight into Planet Coaster 2 and the building progress of everything. As I say, like, it's very important that you find pieces that you become familiar with and use them more and more often, and try out to build stuff that you're not familiar with either. Like, for me specifically, as I said, cyberpunk is nothing I have done before, and I can see myself build more of this, or even go another way and try build things I haven't built in Planet Coaster 1 before. Because why would I kind of like continue in that footstep of knowing something I already good at? Then I need some challenges, and it's good to challenge yourself with builds like this. And I've already seen other people too build stuff from the themes. As you can see, if you go check out Geekism, he built pirate, he built fantasy, and he built some western stuff too. That really tells how versatile that you can make builds like this, and it's just super, super cool. But guys, anyways, I hope you really enjoyed this how-to video. It was more a little bit half a speed build, half a tutorial, but I really hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think, and if you want to see more of this kind of stuff, let me know in the comments down below, and subscribe for more, and I'll see you next time. Bye guys.